What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel.
So as you guys know, HP and I bought a 2015 Hyundai Elantra GT back in June to list it out on the Getaround platform. Now, we had different plans for this video today.
But as always, things don't always go to plan. But we'll explain why in a minute. Well, for starters, it's way too hot and muggy right now. My hair just wasn't cooperating, so we've moved inside in the AC.
Now, as you guys may remember, in June, so a couple of months ago, we introduced a series on this channel that was sponsored by Getaround, where we listed a 2015 Hyundai Elantra GT on the Getaround platform in order to take advantage of the host earnings guarantee program, but to also be able to see how this car would perform on Getaround. And now that summer is quickly coming to a close, this Getaround host earnings guarantee is also ending, and our experiment with Getaround is ending as well.
So in this video, we're going to be breaking down the pros and cons of using Getaround, what our overall thoughts of Getaround was, and most importantly, how much money we made.
Now let's first talk about some of the pros and cons. And in HP and I's opinion, there's kind of three things that we really like about Getaround, and then a couple that we don't love.
First, let's start off with the pros, which the first one being diversification.
Now, HP and I are big proponents of diversifying your income, making sure that your money is coming from a bunch of different sources. And the fact that Getaround allows for us to diversify our income and diversify our fleet, that was a huge plus.
I'm already doing car sharing stuff, so managing a fleet and adding one more isn't that big of a deal. It's in my realm of expertise.
So it was a natural thing for us to do, and it's really been a huge value add for us.
Another pro is going to be the remote key exchanges.
Now, with our entire car sharing fleet, we do all of our key exchanges remote, which means that for the most part, it involves a lockbox. We get the lockbox, put the key in the lockbox, and then put the lockbox at the vehicle for the guest to find. But sometimes this can be a little confusing to a guest, and other times the guest will lock the lockbox in the car, or they'll simply lose the lockbox. With Getaround, the huge value add is the fact that you can actually remotely unlock and lock the car through the Getaround app.
Which is absolutely huge. That saves a lot of time from us because we don't have to send instructions and we don't have to answer the phone call when the guest inevitably says, what's the code? Or how do I do this? Or where is the lockbox? It's simple, it's easy. You go on the app, you book the car, and then when it's your time for the trip and you're already at the vehicle, you hit unlock and the vehicle goes up to a satellite, bounces around, and then comes back down, and it's unlocked. It's seamless, it's foolproof.
But you can't have pros without having cons.
With the first con being the app.
Now, the app is definitely a love-hate relationship because the app allows for us to do the remote unlock and locking of the vehicles, which is one of our favorite things about Getaround. But on the flip side, the Getaround app, as well as the browser interface for Getaround, feels really outdated and a bit limited.
You can't really dive into analytics, which is something that Aubrey really values to see the performance of vehicles. And on top of that, you can't really take as many photos as Aubrey and I are used to taking, which is a minimum of 80 photos to make sure that the vehicle is thoroughly inspected. It's just something that gives us a better peace of mind, especially when the app limits you to only 4 exterior photos.
There's definitely a workaround by just taking extra photos on your own and by using apps like CarSync to help you get into the analytics side of the business, but I definitely wish that the Getaround interface in the Getaround app was a little bit better.
And the last con is going to be the payouts.
This is definitely one that, depending on how many cars you have in your financial situation, you may dislike or like this more than we do. But with Getaround, you only get paid out once per month, and it's via PayPal. And that's definitely my least favorite thing about the Getaround platform.
Getting paid once a month is pretty inconvenient when you're considering you're having to front all that money for things like gas, cleanings, and maintenance for that vehicle.
And if you have a business that has cash flow and is making a lot of money, then it's not that much of an issue. Like, it doesn't make a big difference for HP and I. But if you're somebody that's first getting started with car sharing, I definitely think that that could be an issue because you don't get paid out until the next month's period. So for example, you'll get paid out for July and August, you'll get paid out for August and September, and so on and so forth. There's about a 2 to 3 week delay after the month ends whenever you get payment for that month, and this can definitely be a game changer whenever you're managing your finances.
And on the topic of payments, let's talk about how much money we made.
Now, our Getaround car has been listed on Getaround for just about 2 months. For the month of June, it was only active for about a week, and it only went on 1 trip. But we did qualify for an availability bonus, and because of that, we got paid out $190. We did not qualify for the host earnings guarantee in June because of the fact that our car wasn't active for a long enough period of time in order to qualify.
Now, we had a bit of a slow start at the beginning of July, but as the month went on, it really started to pick up.
And in the entire month of July, the car went out on about 7 different reservations. And during those reservations, we made $500, which is actually really solid. But once you take into account the host earnings guarantee as well as the availability bonus, we made just over $1,200 for the month of July.
Bing. Now the car has lower utilization than we're used to, but that does come with a higher price per day, which means we get pretty good money for something that means lower operational costs, lower maintenance, and lower hassle.
I was honestly pleasantly surprised with how the car did in July. I felt like the amount that it made for how much it was booked out as well as how much work we put into it, it was a huge win. And then that brings us to the month of August, and August was rocking it for our car. And the first 10 days of August, this car did more than the entire month of July, and we were on pace to have a record month. The car was on back-to-back rentals extremely consistently.
That was until it was damaged on a rental.
And that's why ultimately we're not including the car in this video, because it was damaged on a rental a few days ago.
And this is something we get asked fairly often is how does Getaround handle their damage claims? And fortunately, we haven't had that much experience with Getaround claims.
Now, we have had our fair share of claims over the years, but not with Getaround specifically. And I have to be honest, I've been really pleased with how it's been working out. They've been super responsive, there's been virtually no pushback on anything, and we should be made whole within the next few days, if not few weeks. And in the next couple of weeks, we will be doing a follow-up video talking about how much Getaround paid us for this damage. We'll be breaking down the damage. We'll be talking about how much it costs us and of course, how we're gonna go about fixing it.
But now let's talk about our final thoughts with our Getaround experiment.
Now, like we mentioned at the beginning of the video, as summer is quickly and thankfully coming to a close, this experiment is coming to a close as well. And I've been really happy with how things have turned out. It definitely took some time to get the ball rolling with Getaround. It was slow at first, but then as the summer progressed, it became busier and busier. And we definitely are planning to keep this Getaround car on the Getaround platform for the foreseeable future, because I really think that there's a lot of potential here.
Overall, we're very happy with our Getaround experience, and honestly, we can see ourselves expanding our Getaround fleet in the future.
And though this experiment is coming to a close, this definitely will not be our last video that we're talking about Getaround, because we will continue to document our progress with this specific car and if we end up deciding to buy more Getaround cars in the future. And if you're interested in checking out Getaround for yourself, be sure to check out the link in the description below.
But guys, as always, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and we'll see you in the next episode.